Evening, folks. Brian here, Geomagnetic Earth Watch. Ooh. Monday, June 3, 2023, and our planet. Hope you're all well. So I'm going to try to get caught up on some in-person talks. Mostly, to some, it may be a controversial subject, but to others, we understand the biblical context. First, let's talk about the subject of biblical wormwood, the ninth planet, Planet X, the Nibiru system. It's all the same. It takes a heck of a lot of research to acquire all this information, try and establish a chronological timeline, etc. I have my understanding, my notes, my observations. Before I continue, there's a gentleman by the name of Steve from Skywatch Media News who reports on mostly the Planet X system. He is exceptional. 2 Aprils ago, April 2022, he had to go silent for some reason. But he has very recently re-emerged. So I highly recommend, if you want to do some studying up on the Planet X system, that you subscribe to the Skywatch Media News. Anyway, let's get on with it. So long before the 1980s, they suspected the existence of a larger 10th planet affecting the orbit of the outer planets. In January 1981, several daily newspapers stated that Pluto's irregular orbit indicated that Planet X existed. Similar article in the New York Times on January 30th, 1981 as well. In 1982, NASA, perhaps mistakenly at first then, officially recognizes the possibility of Planet X. Press releases, Newsweek, June 28, 1982. However, subsequently they realized that maybe we shouldn't have said that, man. So they had to start redacting that information. But anyway, the information came out. In 1983, the newly launched IRIS, the Infrared Astronomical Satellite Telescope, quickly found Planet X. And again, subsequently this statement was redacted and covered up. How did they find it so quickly? Pioneer 10 in 1972, and the following year Pioneer 11, and then later on Voyagers 1 and 2 space probes were specifically designed and launched to locate and give a triangulation, a better pinpoint, the location of the inbound Planet X and its trajectory. Now, before I continue, a little bit of education here about stars in the galaxy. 76% of the stars in the galaxy are binary systems. 2 stars, 2 suns. 16% are trinary. 3 stars, 3 suns. That comprises 92% of the stars in the galaxy, increasing the probability that our star, Sol, has a companion, a twin, although perhaps aborted, failed brown dwarf. Now, so far, Nibiru was behind our sun. And this perhaps maybe explains, excuse me, why most of the major X-class flares happen behind the sun, the backside. But now, slowly, as Nibiru is making its visual approach, coming out from the backside of the sun, these X-class flares are now starting to pop off on the east limb, aren't they? My own thoughts. I didn't get that from anybody else. It's just what I think. Continue. But as the Nibiru system emerges into view, and not just into view, its magnetic and gravitational influence will be amplified, obvious, profound on Earth's magnetic field, which in turn and or also on the core of our planet, heating up the core of our planet. Remember, I keep on referring to the mantle plumes, which are anchored to the outer core where a magnetic field is generated from the mantle plumes, extend up to the underside of the lithosphere, the upper layer of the crust, in which the crust itself is sitting upon. Anchored to the outer core, heating in the core from the electromagnetic influence from planet X. The heat comes up the mantle plumes, mantle plume heads, spreads, branches, arms, nodes, comes up through the crust. Earthquakes, volcanoes, wildfires. So let's go through a list of what we can expect. Now again, if true, I believe it is. If you're a believer, you believe it is. If you believe in biblical wormwood, you have to understand that Nibiru, the destroyer, or planet X, a system coming in. So these are the things that we can expect to happen and pick up in frequency, magnitude, amplitude. Extreme weather events, destructive, such as we're beginning to see. Droughts to flash floods, and extreme hail events, such as we're beginning to see. The hail events in Texas, and in fact, all over the globe. Sinkholes, cracks in the earth, landslides, draining our rivers and lakes. Bridge collapses, train derailments. Bridge collapses, train derailments. Disappearing lakes. If you're paying attention to what the United Nations is saying, the United Nations, they're telling you the truth, what's going to happen. They just have to give you the BS cover story. One of the latest reports is half of the world's lakes will be drying up, disappearing, or coming through. Sinking coastlines, extreme tidal waves, coastal inundation, gravitational effects from planet X. Natural and methane gas explosions. Northern Canada wildfires. Bird and animal disorientation and die-offs. Lots of them. Increased ultraviolet C radiation. That's a separate subject. I'll do a separate video on that one. And solar flare event impacts. The results. Major impacts in our ability to grow foods, derechos, droughts, loss of waters, floods, etc., and ultraviolet C radiation penetration. Social, economic, and political imbalances and unrest. Infrastructure failures. Transport systems, power distribution systems, dikes, levees, etc. Infrastructure failures. Wastewater drainage systems. So what else can we expect as the Nibiru system transits our solar system? I want you to consider something. This is something I've just thought of. If you have a planetary system coming in through our system, consider two things. Considering the dislodging of our planetary's moons. Do you know how many moons our planets have? Jupiter has 92 moons that we know of. Saturn has 63 moons that we know of. Uranus 27 and Neptune 14 moons that we know of. Never mind the asteroid belt. So as the planet X system begins its transit through our solar system, let's consider the possibility that these moons are going to be knocked out of their orbit, as well as the asteroid belts. The asteroid belt is a very narrow band, organized belt of asteroids in our solar system. Now, I want to talk a little bit about our lithosphere. Something called lithospheric melt and lithospheric thinning from, again, the heat, the rising magma and heat from the mantle plumes coming up, causing melting of the lithosphere, thinning of the lithosphere. And where are we going to see those heat indications? As I've described several times. First, where the crust is thinnest, oceanic plates. Next, continental shelves. Third, coastlines. Fourth, continents. I'll try and do a video tonight before I go to bed. We have some additional heat anomalies on the coast of the Gulf of Mexico along Florida and Texas, New Orleans coast and the waters. Lithospheric melting, thinning, weakening of the lithosphere in which our crust, our feet stand upon. Rising heat, electromagnetic influence from a larger system coming in. So what would this, or could this affect? I have a theory. Our depletion and loss of our natural sources of fuels, oil, natural gas, and, folks, our water below our feet. If we have rising heat, if we have lithospheric melting, expect a loss of our oil and natural gas reserves and water reserves. And would this not explain, and think about it, why they want us so desperately off of our gas-powered cars and gas stoves by a certain time frame. Do they quite possibly or probably know that we are losing all of our resources? It's not going to be there for our personal civilian use cars, gas-powered stoves, etc. Do you think really that's the reason why for our energy crisis? And again, remember the United Nations did a recent report that expect half of the world's lakes to be drying up or otherwise losing their waters. So what to expect going on from this point, aside from what I just told you? The earth changes signs. Expect a continuation as it's been starting since this year. A censorship of the geological events and downgrading of earthquakes and deleting earthquake information. And as I pointed out, ever since the Turkey earthquake on one app, they only reported half the amount of earthquakes, and then a third. And then earlier this week, 1/10 the amount of earthquakes on our planet. Expect grid destabilization. Cover story? Of course, there's going to be a cyber attack. Maybe physical attacks. You see, the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, World Health Organization, they are telling you what is going to happen. Okay? They're working on your psyche, predictive programming, and don't say I'm starting to talk like Biden. They just can't tell us the reasons. The truth. Increase in orchestrated distractions to include the intensification of the Ukraine deception. If a catastrophic events are inbound, such as described in the book of Revelations, then everything that you are seeing, it's all an orchestrated distraction, all of it. You have to keep us distracted for as long as they possibly can. As long as we're roaming free on this planet, I might even suggest an intentional nuclear accident at that nuclear power plant. Maybe then in Europe, at least, they would have a reason to say mandatory lockdowns for your health protection. Forget the bullshit about everybody accusing, Ukraine's accusing Russia, and Russia is accusing Ukraine and all that. Assume it is going to happen and prepare for it. And remember, once again, when the time comes to the need to isolate the population, as Mr. John Moore stated in his article way back in 2006, it is far easier to impose martial law if the general population is already on a lockdown, and as he suggested back then in 2006, from a pandemic. Event 201, which was made public, wasn't made public for the reasons they wanted you to think publicly. Event 201 was an exercise, first step in getting everybody locked down and other restrictions. Approach everything with an open mind. Think about it. Yvette 201 was a meeting orchestrated and organized by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation involving government officials, economic, banking, military. What would happen if we had a global pandemic in the next month? Would we have a global pandemic? But that exercise was in preparation for when they do actually have to lock down the population and then impose martial law. Why do you think they had that military exercises across the United States and in some parts of Canada? Just think about it. So pay attention to the earth changes. Expect an intensification, amplification. They're not going to go away. It's going to get worse. And think about what it's going to impact. Your water. Our ability to grow food and grow enough food. Your freedom of movement. Future restrictions coming up. Censorship. What a good way to censor the flow of information by causing the internet to go down. For most of us, our daily lives, just like right now, me talking to you, is dependent on the internet. So anyway, I had a whole bunch I want to talk to you about, but that would be like an hour-long video. So I'm going to try and break it up into 3 20 or so minute videos. Anyway, Planet X. Now, about my last drive-in talk. There's going to be people out there who need to keep you distracted, to divert your attention. Till my next video.